Welcome into the Morning Glory Show, Titans fans. The Tennessee Titans are no longer winless, winning their first game in Miami 31-12 against a Tua-less Miami Dolphins team. We'll be talking about that and much more, breaking down that game as we go into the bye week. But if you're checking us out for the first time, do us a favor. If you're over on YouTube, we got this Tajay Spears signed jersey. We got to give away to somebody. We're getting damn close. We're going to be giving that away once we hit 1,000 subscribers, and we are into the 50s. We're getting dang close to that goal. So go ahead, do us a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you're joining us over on Twitter/X, go ahead, hit that retweet button, leave us a like, help boost the channel. We appreciate it. It's free. If you're checking us out on Spotify or Apple, go ahead, just tune into the channel. That's all we ask for, you guys. We're here every week, every Thursday morning, 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. And it's a great week to talk about Titans, guys. And I'm joined by my co-host, as always, starting on my right side, Jonathan Miller at Esports Valen. How you doing today, Jonathan?
Good, man. Titans win, right? Maybe there's some things to talk about that aren't so great, and I think I'm probably going to shed a light on that, but a win nonetheless. So you can't be too upset.
Yeah, super happy. It's a win. It's a win and a win. And it might not be pretty, but we got it done. And then on my other side, we got B Will at B Will TFTV and TFTV Sports. How you doing today, B Will?
I'm great, man. Once again, got a win to talk about. Well, not once again, but we got a win to talk about, and hopefully we can talk about it week after next too. The boys played all right.
Yeah, we got Indy coming up, which I will be in attendance for. I'll be buying that game ticket here probably tomorrow once it get paid. So drop down in the comments. What's the section that gets popping down there? Holler at me. Send me a DM. But we'll check it out. I see Jonathan thinking right now. But let's go ahead and hop into it. We're let's talk some game. And I want to start, and we'll get into the Will Levis, Mason Rudolph discussion. As we always do, it takes over this show, and it's taken over every Titans podcast and has been all season, essentially. But I want to start with offensive line and Bill Callahan and this team. Obviously, the Titans only gave up one sack on Monday, but there was still lots of concern out there. Mason Rudolph got the ball out quick, but pressure got there, I think, 12 out of 25 times. Still almost half of the dropbacks were still pressured. So starting with B. Will, I just got to know, is this offensive line fixable, or can we even get to a point where it's serviceable this season?
Well, I think we won't see until the very, very end of the season where it's actually serviceable and we're able to, the quarterback's able to sit back there and process some things for a second or two before he's getting killed. On the bright side of things, I mean, Latham looks like, he's really rounding into form, and that's something I'm really, really excited about. It takes certain spots to solidify and have pillars on the offensive line, and left tackle looks like it's going to be one of those that's solidified. So, Callahan's done an exceptional job with Latham so far. He struggled early, but you're seeing that strength, that the play quickness. You're seeing that what showed up in college, you're seeing that with Latham. As the season goes on, let's not forget he transitioned from right tackle to left tackle. So, he was sort of owed a little grace in that respect. But I'm really excited about Latham. I'm slightly worried about Skoronski, but Skoronski's even proven to be a little bit better, especially in the run game. That's been a strength of his, has been the run game. So, I'm still concerned with right tackle. We're abysmal there. That's just the truth. MPF, this guy, we might as well have a sixth offensive lineman the way how much help we give MPF. And he needs it. It's almost like we're making the bets for him. But, it's still Raden's been okay. Cushenberry's been okay. But, we've got stuff to build on. And last year we didn't have shit to build on. So, we're working in the right direction, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I think Bill Callahan, he really threw the kitchen sink at this offensive line, and I think it's going to improve down the stretch. And that, like you said, this is accreditation to J.C. Latham just coming in as a rookie and being a pro from the get-go. He's been the best offensive lineman that we've had out there basically every single week. And God, I just going back and watching this film, I saw them run every single duo, inside zone, outside zone, power, counter. And at the same time, they're bringing motion to the play side, away from the play side. So I think how we have this offensive line kind of constructed, I think JC Latham kind of fits every scheme. You get into guys like MPF and Dylan Raditz. I think they thrive primarily on zone-based schemes, and then you hop into Scarons. It's just this scatter. So we don't see consistency on a play-to-play basis just because they're still learning. They're still getting better at all of these things that they're not good at. When it comes to just strict pass pro, Lloyd Cushenberry had his worst game of the day or of the season thus far, and maybe Radens did too. Peter Skoronsky, man, I worry about that kid because he has all the talent in the world, but he's just not putting it together. And then NPF, throw that man into the fire at the end of the season. He's done, but I still think he's better than Jalen Duncan. So, hey, you gave up 1 sack on Monday. I'm happy with that. I mean, from what we've seen previous weeks, it was at least an improvement, even if it's still a slight improvement. So, what about
I really worry about Skoronsky with how much he struggles with power in the pass rush. I mean, it's just
it's a
he
weekly
gets
basis
bull
at
rushed.
this point.
The tape is out on him, and these guys are taking full advantage of it. I've said it before. I mean, he's got T-Rex arms, and that's part of the reason why. Just because you move somebody in from tackle to guard doesn't mean that their arms get any longer. He still struggles with bull rush, and what people don't understand is when you move them inside like that, their time to react gets down. I mean, it's damn near cut in half. You know what I mean? So you've really got to be pristine with your mechanics, and I can't say that he has been. Especially, I mean, his short arms can be to the detriment of his.
I feel like Skoronsky is on that topic. He kind of gets beat at a normal rate, though. You know what I'm saying? Like
he's serviceable.
It's not like he is like he's still developing. Like we have to think also is that Skoronsky had a similar move to Latham, right? Like Peter was a left tackle, he moved inside, and though that is seemingly and traditionally an easier transition, it's still a transition, especially for a guy who didn't play that type of ball. So for me, I'm not worried at all on Skoronsky. I think he's getting beat, like a guy with shorter arms does in pass pro. And he's been, not great at times, but he's kind of losing at like a normal rate. Like consistently though, he is a good offensive lineman. Like not only is he fantastic in the run game, but he does fine. He's serviceable in pass protection. So I'm not too worried about him. I think he's still going to be a really, really good player. I think he's just going to take some time to kind of develop into that. But yeah, I mean, to round out the thoughts on the offensive line, obviously this was a much better performance on Monday. NPF played better technically than the horrendous outings he's had over the past couple of weeks. To be completely honest with you, I'm not even sure that he deserves full credit for the sack. It was it looked like a stunt, and there was just broken communication there. And Radens just he shifted and helped Lloyd. There's just that massive gap that he probably should have picked up. So for being technical, it probably should have been Radens' sack. But either way, I think the jury's out on what we can expect moving forward with this offensive line, mostly because obviously there's a lot of bright spots and they played better on Monday, but how much of that was them playing better versus Mason's, kind of like professional intuition of being like, okay, based on what I'm seeing, I have to get the ball out here. And Callie even said it I think it might've been one of the Titans shows or something, or maybe it was just a presser the day after on Tuesday, but he said that their point of emphasis was not only to run the ball, but it was also to get the ball out quickly. And what's funny is that he explains the third down, or it probably wasn't a third down. It was the 16 seconds that was left when the Titans got the ball, where they, got that big play down the field to Tyler Boyd that ended in a field goal. He explains that play, and the primary read is Tyler Boyd on a 25-yard inbreaker. That's like a 5-step drop back. That's not a quick, you're not getting the ball out of your hands quick. So there were several moments where we saw that, and Mason did a pretty good job of executing that. So how much of that was Mason Rudolph doing a good job of being efficient and quick with his decision making, and how much of it was the Titans offensive line just breaking down? I think it was a little bit of both. This Dolphins defensive line was not particularly great. They were missing their best pass rusher halfway through the game, and Jalen Phillips, who is done again for the year against the Titans on Monday night, which is super ironic. But yeah, I'm optimistic about the offensive line. I'm not settled that right tackle is just good. NPF just had a better week, but it certainly wasn't a good week, I would say, right? You still gave up a sack, but the Titans offensive line only giving up 1 sack is an interesting topic of conversation. And if that level of play could be achieved on a consistent basis, then, maybe we're cooking. Because again, we said it in the offseason, as long as this team can go from bottom 2, bottom 3 in just overall protection at the offensive line, if you can get to like 12 through like 14, if you can get into like the top 12 overall, then that is a drastic improvement for this ball club. And if that happens, then that should be good enough for you to evaluate your young quarterback.
I think this isn't a talent issue. It's more so it's an NPF talent issue, but it's more so chemistry. We have to think coming into this season, obviously Radens and Skoronsky and NPF that were already on the team previous years, but I don't know if Radens ever took a snap next to NPF during his career coming into this year. I mean, he may have had a few, but I mean, he really came in as a backup most of the time, and NPF has missed so much time. I'm not really positive they have. And then Skoronsky lost time as a rookie, so it's like kind of coming into that. It's that Spartan mentality. You got your guy on the right, and you got the guy on the left. You got to be able to rely on them, and they just don't have that yet. And that's what they've really struggled with a lot this season is passing off those stunts from one another. And like you talked about with Radens, when he dived inside and had to take the 2 blocks, and then he comes off unblocked essentially with NPF there. And Tajay Spears, I think, ran by that man as well. So there's a lot going on there that hopefully going into the bye week, you can sit down, you can review all this film for them this 4 weeks, and then coming out against the Colts, maybe we see a slight improvement, an uptick there. And again, we'll have Will Levis back under center. So how does that affect things? Mason Rudolph is a statue back there, but you know where he's going to be. Will Levis, we know he's going to drift from side to side and cause a lot of pressure on his own. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Well, let's go ahead, hop into the discussion. Obviously, Will Levis dives for a first down, which was definitely a first down, and Brian Callahan should have challenged that, and it would have been overturned.
100%.
Unfortunately, lands on his throwing shoulder and was in quite a bit of pain. Another meme face out there, just as we get every week at this point in time. Good news with the bye week, we shouldn't see another one. But just putting that together, he has the just outrageous interception, throwing to defensive linemen, these predetermined reads that we've talked about forever now. And then we see Mason Rudolph come in and do just enough. I think we had 1 completion in the second half. He went 1 for 3. So he didn't do anything to win the game, but he also didn't throw it away like Will Levis has done the previous 3 weeks. So I think we're all still in agreement, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, that we still want to see Will Levis out there as the starter for the remainder of the season. And you guys correct me if you're wrong. But at this point in time, where do we stand with Will Levis and going forward? Are you guys still – do you see a competition here now? Do we see maybe Amy Adams-Strunk or Brian Callahan pull the plug on him potentially before the end of the season because they want to win now? I know we're talking about the draft and we want to see a Shador Sanders, Cam Moore, to Quinn Ewers or whatever potentially going out. But do they get that leash? Is there a shortened leash at this point in time? We'll start with you, B. Will.
I don't think it is, just because I think everybody understands what's at stake with if Levis plays or if he doesn't play. And everybody's fully aware of what happens if Levis plays and if he doesn't play. I mean, we saw what happens when we have a guy come in that's, below average, below league average quarterback play, what happens with this team. It's not as bad as it has been with Levis. And I think that's more of an indictment with Will Levis. I mean, Mason Rudolph didn't come in there and do nothing spectacular. He came in there, played like a quarterback that if I throw 3 picks, I'm going to sell insurance. That's how he played. And it showed. But Will Levis doesn't have that same fire under his ass. So I mean it's something that we know that if we have a quarterback that's like that, we're not going to lose 10, 12 games. If we have a guy like Levis that's going to give the game away every time, we're going to lose 10 or 12 games. That's what it looks like it's going to be, but that's what it needs to be. I'll just be frank. It's not about, and it's not, and you can be just as much a Titans fan if you think they need to win 12 or lose 12 this year, because at the end of the day, this team ain't winning a damn Super Bowl. But you also got to look and be factual and be logical, which I know is a tough ask for a lot of people, and look ahead in the future and say, we got to figure this thing out. Levis is not going to be it. And if you want to be in an 8-9, it's not even 8-8 anymore, but an 8-9 quarterback purgatory for the next 4 or 5 years, kudos to you. I don't want to be in that. So Levis needs to do one last job, one last ride, and ensure we get Shedeur Sanders in April. That's what it is. And so, and Brian Callahan knows that. That's why Levis is playing, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's always been that, right? Like I can't even tell you how many times I've said this in the past couple of months, especially in the past couple of weeks. Will Levis is going to start the entire season, and he needs to for that exact reason. You get one of 2 answers. You let him start the entire time. And by the way, whether you think he's the guy or not, it's just the right thing to do as a young quarterback. Like, you've built the team around him. You have to know. And to be honest with you, this was like, let's just be real. Let's just back up. Let's zoom out for a second. Did we all not agree that these first 4 weeks were the toughest stretch of the schedule? We did, yes. Right? And we came out of it 1-3. I believe we all said, if we come out of this stretch 2-2, that is a massive win. But most likely, probably coming out of this stretch 1-3, right? So if we're being completely honest, there's 2 options here. You either Will Levis comes online and improves, which outside of the interception was looking good again, looked pretty decent in the Green Bay game through certain aspects of that, right? He's kind of incrementally improving a little bit. Just these turnovers and these like memeable faces that he keeps making on the sideline are keeping everybody in the same like mode of like, he's trash, like throw him away, right? But the reality is, Titans fans, is that we are going to be seeing Will Levis, barring any injuries. We are going to be seeing him in every single game. And that is 100% the plan. It's been the plan the whole time. Miss Amy knows it. Rand knows it. Bill knows it. When they sat down, or Bill, well, I guess Bill does too, but Brian knows it. When they all sat down in that interview to decide if Brian Callahan was going to be the guy, this was discussed. They said, we think this kid is good, and we think he's got the tools. And I think everyone still thinks that, but they're like, by the way, the plan here is that he's the guy. But if he's not, then we ride with him. We build around him to know for certainty if he is or isn't. And if he's not, then guess what? We get to the end of the season. He wasn't. We've lost more games than we thought we were going to win. And now we can talk quarterback going forward, whether that's a bridge to get you to 2026, which in my opinion are a much better quarterback class, or if it's bad enough, then you're within striking distance of the 1 or 2 guys that are worth taking at 1 or 2 or whatever it is, right? So there's nothing to talk about at this point. It's like, it's as a fan base, it sucks because we want to win. And every time we lose and Will gets memed on, we're like the laughing stock, right? It's not fun. We get it. Like I have those fan moments in real time, like the big pick happens or whatever. And I'm like, bro, you've got to be kidding me. Like, send him to the moon. I'm done, right? Like, you have those instant reaction moments. But the reality is, when the dust settles, you have to go, well, this is the plan. This is the only way to know. And by the way, we're 4 games into the season. I get it. I know that everybody is just done with him. I've seen it all over Twitter. I'm battling it every single week on this podcast against B Will. I understand. And a part of me feels that way too. A part of me wants to be done also. It's been poor play. But if I'm being honest with you, seeing guys like Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield just revive their career, obviously that's years in the making, and nobody's ready to sit around for years to find out if he's going to develop. But it's just an example of how young quarterbacks get drafted into situations and thrown in where they really shouldn't. They really need time. Like this is a process. Like some guys take longer than others, and then those guys end up having really great careers. So who knows what happens with Baker or Sam Darnold? Who knows if it's just a flash in the pan? But for Baker, it doesn't really look like that. He took a team to the playoffs and played really well, and now he's coming out swinging and having some really good games. For Sam, the first couple of weeks, I'm like, okay, when does this roller coaster stop? Right? Like when does the ride end and then everything goes back to normal? They're 4-0 and he's playing really good football. So for me, I'm just not ready to hit the eject button yet. I need the entire season to know, or most of the season. Like we can get to week 13 or 14 and be like, okay, if we're seeing the same thing through 13, 14 weeks, all right, let's pack it in, boys. Like we know. But I'm just not ready to hit that eject button yet. And thankfully, the plan is in place as it should be. And for people like B. Will who are like, look, I'm just out. I don't think he's the guy. There's plenty of those, and I get it. But the best part is we both get what we want. Because if you don't think he's the guy and he's going to keep losing games, then great. We get to our next quarterback faster. And for me, I get more games to see if he is the guy. So it's a win-win if you think about it.
With him, with Levis, and with Baker and Sam, I know you just use them as examples. But, the difference with that is these guys are in the NFC. You got to get past my homeboy in the AFC. And Levis, even in his wildest dreams, even his old lady, the new one he's got, even her, when she's telling him, you're a good quarterback, she's not telling him you can beat Patrick Mahomes. She knows that. He knows that.
Like step
we
5,
know that.
though? Can I just get a game like Baker? Can I get more games like the game that we played against Atlanta? Can I get 3 and 4 touchdown games where he throws 300 plus, 350 plus yards? Can we get to that point first? Like, I'm not even worried about beating Mahomes.
You can, but I think you got a better chance at going to scratch off than seeing that. But I mean, we're going to see. I don't see it. He knows, and Levis knows. Everybody knows. If Levis knows, we all know. You can look at him and tell.
He's got to stop being so damn animated on the sidelines, man. He is shooting himself in the foot.
There's something wrong.
That's my biggest pet peeve.
There's something wrong with him, man. I can't quite put my finger on it. He just doesn't comprehend things as I don't know.
Like him saying that he didn't see the guy on the pick is like, what are you talking about, bro? He drifted off the line. He didn't just zip over. He didn't teleport over there like you're playing Madden. He didn't just show up in front of it. It was like a 5-yard comeback. It was like a 5-yard curl route. Like, what do you – I think Stoney posted a screenshot. When you look at the all-22, Ogba, is that his last name? He's standing right in front of your guy. Like, he didn't teleport there. He drifted. He slowly drifted. He didn't just jump back there really quick. It's an edge rusher, bro. He's massive. What do you mean you didn't see? So, like, little things like that. You
couldn't see Hopkins if anything. He was covering him up.
Hey, man, if you
that one is just inexcusable, right? Like, it's like,
if your old lady wrecks your truck and runs it into a semi, she can't tell you she didn't see that damn semi. That's
she's
what
going
that
to,
is.
though. She's going to.
She's going to say she didn't see the semi, but she saw that damn semi. It's the same thing with Levis.
That's why the analogy is so good.
Yeah,
she's going to tell you. She's going to say, yeah.
And then you're going to get to the point in time you're like, okay, I could see where maybe you didn't see them, and you're just going to go with it.
And then what do you do? Do you give her the truck keys back?
You got to earn them back.
Yeah, if she's your wife, yeah, you have to give her the keys back.
You got to. So that's what we're going to do to Levis.
Happy wife,
She's our wife
happy
right
life.
now.
Happy QB, happy life.
We're giving them back the truck keys.
Like the last thing I want to say on the pick too, and here's the worst part. The worst part is that Levis is leading the league in turnovers. So this
picks too.
This pick wasn't even that egregious. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was like, this was a pick that you could have lived with and kept the game going. Like, this happens. But because all of his previous turnovers through the first 3 weeks were so egregious that it's like anything he does that is not perfection is like striking him. You know what I'm saying? It's like, this is the worst thing that you could be doing. So that's the even harder part, is that Levis has strung together such terrible turnovers through the first 3 weeks that now when he makes, like, don't get me wrong, it's a bad pick, but when he makes any mistake, he is under missile fire. You know what I'm saying? So like now he desperately needs a game where he comes out and plays clean, doesn't turn over the ball, doesn't go crazy, doesn't truck somebody and get hurt. Like, none of that. He just has to play clean like basically just do better than what Mason Rudolph does. Play a game manager game where you play clean, no turnovers, maybe a couple touchdowns, and then it's like, okay, he can do it. Now let's build on that. He desperately needs one of those games. And if I'm being honest, guys, even watching this win, as dirty and yucky and scrappy as it was, it didn't feel as satisfying as other wins do, because your quarterback goes out there, has a couple of nice throws a pick, and then gets hurt. And then you're like, God, bro, like the thing that's missing from this team, we have to know if Levis, like what we need more than a win almost is a really good game from Will Levis, so we can get this monkey off our back. Because if not, this is just the topic of conversation. Like it's going to roll over week to week. Like this is not the guy. This is not the guy. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm with Jake. Like the worst thing that could happen is that Mason Rudolph gets rolled out there and we win 7 or 8 games. And like we're sitting at 8 and 9 or 7 and 10 at the end of the year. And we're like, we don't know anything that we didn't know at the beginning of the year, except Will Levis has regressed.
Yeah.
It's like
in purgatory all over
again.
The
work. Yeah, we can't have that. That cannot happen. So it can't be understated how important it is for Will to either string together these wins, or I hate to say it, continue this terrible level of play. And then it's just like, we can't move on with this guy. So, but unfortunately for us, that's going to go through December.
Buddy,
how it is.
It's going through April. We're going to be talking about quarterbacks, Titans fans, till April.
Guaranteed.
Yeah. Bro, can I just say something really quick on Shedeur? Like, we don't have to dive in. We're going to have so many times to talk about this, but I'm not in on Shedeur Sanders. I just don't like, talent wise, he's a great talent, but as a person, I just don't think
I think it's what most people kind of see him. And it's going to be similar to Baker coming out, honestly. People
No. Shedeur is like next level cocky. Just the way he carries himself.
I like that.
What is Levis?
Not that, bro. Come on.
Levis is fake confident. I hate it.
He's a front running fake confident. I'm not even going to finish it.
Bro.
But I'm going to put my optimistic hat on real quick. You were talking about the turnover plays. Obviously, he leads the NFL in turnovers. But is it any different from what he's done in previous, going back to college? That spurred me to look at PFF, pull those numbers, and essentially college 3.4% turnover worthy throws is what I'm looking at. Last year as a rookie, it was 4.5. This year, 4.7. Not very different. And where does that rank just in the NFL? I just wanted to pull up some names, and there's a handful of quarterbacks that are on backups essentially on this list. But I mean, there's guys like Anthony Richardson, Jalen Hurts, Joe Flacco, Tyler Huntley's up there, Jordan Love, Kirk Cousins, Justin Herbert, and Josh Allen, they are tied with. So last year, these people just weren't catching the football. This year they are. Yeah. So
he also doesn't have those big time throws to bounce that out this year too.
He's had some of them,
which is what Jordan Love has.
Yeah,
yes,
it balances out. He hasn't had that balance.
Yeah,
last year he had that balance.
And then we can even look at adjusted completion percentage, just taking out the spikes and throwaways, which we haven't had any spikes or anything like that. But I mean, in college, he was 74.3 as a whole, all 4 years. Last year as a rookie, 69.1. And what did we talk about this offseason is he has to get more accurate. He's got to place the football better. This season, it's jumped up to 77.2. So the dude is improving. I will give him that. It's just not coming out statistically. He's got to find, and Mason Rudolph did it really well on Monday, is Brian Callahan gave him these high-low reads, and Mason Rudolph, he's Garth Brooks. He's got friends in low places. He's taking that low throw every single time. And that's something that Will Levis just has not done. He's not taking the easy throws still. And there was a handful of throws that I saw out there that I was like, Will Levis is ripping this to Calvin Ridley for 20 yards downfield. Might not be the correct throw, though. He's making that his first read opposed to his second read. He's not leading low-high. He's leading high-low. So I think there is still a lot of promise. And like you said, Jonathan, going into 4 weeks, this was off the table. We didn't even want to have this discussion. It's what can you do down the stretch? Can you improve down the season? And I think there are things that are leading towards that he can. As of right now, I'm still not saying he's the guy yet, but he can be that for us. And as long as he just does a couple more things, I think those high statistical games are going to come where he's going to throw for 303. He just might have another interception and a fumble in that game as well. So that's what you're going to get out of him. I don't think he's ever going to be Patrick Mahomes. And I think somebody in the comments put that as how many quarterbacks are getting past Mahomes, lower the expectations, or else get rid of the rest of the QBs in the AFC too. And I mean, I guess that goes back.
You got guys that are competing against him. We're not going to hit. Levis ain't competing against him. What
No,
Levis ain't
it's
even.
It's a different story. He's in a different ballpark.
Yeah, Levis is minor league compared to him. You just we need to get somebody in the same league. We got a roster that can compete. You compete as a roster against Mahomes, but when you got a quarterback that is as bad as Will Levis, you could roll out there the damn 86 Bears. It don't matter. You know, it's just you could have rolled out them 2000 Ravens defenses teams. Doesn't matter when you got a guy like Levis. It's just that abysmal. So it's not about beating Mahomes, or not about him. You know, dueling with Mahomes. That's not going to happen, but he's going to.
You got to get to the point where you can at least potentially have a competitive game against him. Because you want to be able to come out of the AFC. I mean, that is the guy that you have to beat.
And here's the thing: this is what pisses me off. Who's making? What are the expectations? What are the expectations for this team and this franchise? Let's be honest. Let's have an honest conversation. If the expectation ain't to get to a Super Bowl, you know, or be working towards getting to a Super Bowl, building a roster, having a quarterback that can get you there, the hell are we doing this for? What, seriously?
Let me counterpoint that, right? Is the problem that the roster has high expectations, or is the problem that the young quarterback who hasn't even played a full season of games should be the guy to get him to a Super Bowl already in year 2? Let's review some. Hold on. Let's review something really quickly. I know I'm not trying to draw a specific comparison necessarily, but I just want to highlight something. There's a quarterback that had a rookie season that has similar comps to Will Levis that went out there and threw for 2,074 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 12 picks. 12. And that's just a recent comp. That's Josh Allen. If you want to go through and look at the first 17 or so games of a lot of your favorite quarterbacks in this game, a lot of the stats read around that. Same for one of the greatest of all time with Peyton throwing an insane amount of turnovers. My point is that I think that we pull the plug on young quarterbacks way faster than we need to. And I'm talking about in general in the NFL. It happens all the time. And the problem is because a lot of teams treat a young quarterback as this dynamic, like supercharged battery that you plug into your roster and then boom, it's ready to go. And the reality is the Titans brought in a ton of talent to support Will. But the reality is that he was not developing as a quarterback under Mike Vrabel. And, you know, like, yeah, we had, who was our quarterback coach that was pretty good? London. Forgetting his first name.
Charles London.
Charles London, who seemed pretty promising. But outside of Charles London, Tim Kelly wasn't developing Will Levis. Mike Vrabel sure as hell was not developing him. He didn't have the right tools and the right coaches and the right teachers around him to get there. We are talking about 14 games, I think. 13 or 14. I believe it's 14, right? 9 plus 4. 13, sorry. Will Levis has played in 13 games so far in the NFL. 13. And we're like, nope, get rid of him. He's trash. We're done. Do you guys see how kind of like that doesn't really make sense to me, which is why I've been pitching so hard that we have to see him play more games, especially under this new regime. So, yes, I get it. The level of play has not been good, but we all agree that his intangibles and a lot of the parts of his games are NFL worthy. Mentally, he's struggling. He's a young man, a young quarterback who got thrust into the limelight who has not been ready, and he's not had the proper teaching or coaching, and then it's all coming to head here. So all I'm trying to say, I'm not trying to be Mr. Optimistic. I'm literally just trying to be logical in the evaluation and say, you can't possibly say, get him out of there now. We're done. How? If they had said that about Josh Allen through his first 13 games, you want to know how many interceptions he had? In game 11 and 12, he had 2 and 3 picks. In one game, there were several games where he had multiple picks, multiple turnovers. It happens as a young quarterback. I'm not saying like you compare like the 2018 Buffalo Bills versus the 2024 Titans, but all I'm saying is that we need more time, guys. Like logically, like really look at it. I think Will Levis has a better chance of cleaning up some of these mistakes, getting to the point where he's like, okay, I'm seeing the offense a little bit better. And by the way, this is a second offense. This is what, third or fourth offense in the past 3 or 4 seasons for him. He had 2 different offensive coordinators in his last years in college, and now 2 different offenses in his first 2 years in the NFL. Like, just be honest, because what would happen if you get rid of Will Levis now, right? Like if the majority of Titans Twitter or whatever, the Titans fan base gets what they want and they moved on from him now, what are the odds that he goes somewhere else and develops behind it? But let's say he's a backup and he sits behind whoever, Brock Purdy or whatever, and develops. He's gonna be a guy in this league. I just have a strong intuition that's gonna happen. Who knows when, right? We're not gonna sit around forever. All I'm saying is that we need to be fair in our evaluation, and I think our expectations for him, like we're acting like he played his entire rookie year, and it's like, okay, time to make the year 2 jump. He didn't play his whole rookie year.
Here's the thing. For every Peyton Manning and for every Josh Allen, there's a Trey Lance and Will Levis.
Yep.
There is. And he's a Trey Lance. He's not a damn Josh Allen. I know that. And for me to know that, I haven't seen any improvement over these 13 to 14 games from the most important part of quarterback play, risk management. His temperament, it's terrible. Something I've been saying for a year. That hasn't changed. That hasn't improved. Quarterback play is essential. Risk management is essential to quarterback play, and he has proven to be completely inadequate at that. Inadequate. And his lows are season-defining, game-defining, week in, week out, affecting lows. They are. You cannot win like that. Won't win like that. You just can't. And
100% agree.
And nobody is saying that he needs to be benched and to be done right now. I'm not saying that. Let him play the rest of the season so everybody else can see what I see. That's what I say. And then come back around in January and be like, oh well, we gave him a chance. It's cool. That's what it is. I'm just waiting.
I think we're seeing the hard side of that risk management, because with that, you're going to see big plays as well. They just haven't came this season. We saw them last year. I think we're at one polar side right now. I don't think it's going to go back to the other side completely, but I think we're going to see a comeback to the median here very soon. My biggest thing with the risk management is with his body. And Amar in the comments said we won't see what he can be if he goes to IR. And we saw that on Monday. And this is something that he dealt with. Worst case scenario. That's what we saw last year as well. We missed time in the preseason as well as late in the season. And then going back to Kentucky as a senior, he had the turf toe, the hurt shoulder again, and he dislocated his finger. So there's these multiple things that are going to add up over time. He might look like Josh Allen from a body type, but he's got brittle bones. He can't take those
and a
hits
brittle
like
mind.
Josh. And he can be deterred.
The brittle
from that.
mind is the worst part. Like
Josh Allen ain't got no brittle mind.
No, he's got. Yeah.
Why do we think of somebody with that brittle of a mind can lead this franchise? Why do we have hope that he can lead this franchise? Do you think that just turns around?
I don't think he's.
I don't think front runner like him.
I don't think his mental is what we've seen from the first 4 games. I don't think that's who he is. I think that's where he is. I don't know, man. Look, we are either going to agree or we're going to be on the same page come week 13, 14, 15, regardless of how this thing turns out. Because like I said, if he sputters and we continue to see these mistakes and this level of play for the next 10 weeks or so, then we're all going to be in agreement. However, if he does turn it around, then, all I'm saying is that that's possible. And if it doesn't, like, worst case scenario is, like, I don't know who it was in the comments said that if he goes to IR, if he has a serious injury, we are going to have some uncomfortable dialogue, because at that point, you can't just sit around. Brian Callahan's not going to sit around. Rand Carthon's not going to sit around. Rand Carthon has been hitting absolute dingers as GM. He has been awesome. They have done a great job of talent acquisition, not just in the draft, which, by the way, 2 of your, draft picks shining in Monday night's game defensively with Jarvis Brownlee Jr. and Tavondre. And then, of course, JC Latham. So, like, it's happening all over again where his draft picks are making huge contributions to the team. So he's done phenomenally in the draft. But more importantly, you go acquire L'Jarius Sneed, who has had a damn good start to the season. No one's talking about that, but he's not giving up anything. And then you have Ernest Jones. That might be one of the best tandems at linebacker between Kenneth Murray. They had a really good game, and Ernest has been really great for us since he got here. So it's just like they are doing a fantastic job of building this roster. And right now, you got to get the quarterback right. So if that quarterback goes to IR and you don't get a chance to see him play enough, then that's the worst case scenario. But as long as he's playing, we're going to get our answer.
Do we really think that Carthon and Callahan are going to let front-running, overconfident, overzealous guy that can't manage no risk determine their fate in this league?
Yes.
That's not their guy?
Yes.
By the way, they're not going to do that.
This season, absolutely they are.
No, I'm talking about going forward. I'm not talking about going forward as the guy.
No, absolutely not. No.
So what are we saying here?
We're saying that there's a chance that Will could still be the guy. We're only 4 weeks into the
What is it?
Year.
Put that in numerical. Numerical. I'm gonna put you on the spot. Put that numerical. What's I can't even say it because it's 0 with me. Put that in a numerical chance that he's the guy. I can't even say the shit. That's what that's how egregious this is getting.
I know what you're saying. Look, I'm more out than in on Levis at this point. But maybe I'm sitting at like 40% or 35% that I think there's a chance that he can still be the guy, which to me means enough play. If we get to I'm saying, look, if you get a larger sample size, if we get 25 games into his career, and although the previous 12 or 13 weeks or whatever it is for me, and we're seeing the same level of play, and we're not seeing any difference in what we've seen from the first 3 weeks or 4 weeks, then yeah, I think you have to move on. But at that point, you've given him a chance. You have a realistic shot at knowing if this guy who is very talented, if he can put it together. And if he can't, then as the franchise just has to move on. But that's the beauty. If he can't, that means we're losing. And if we're losing, we're flirting in the top 5, then, we're talking about big time quarterbacks, going into this year, which again, we can have that discussion later in the year. I don't love the quarterback class. Who knows? Maybe I could come around to Shador. He just seems cocky and arrogant, and I just don't love that in my quarterback, but who knows? But yeah, we'll see. The time needs to tell. I need to see more is all I'm saying.
Let's go to the defense after this, but you don't think Levis is cocky and arrogant?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't.
All right, I'll pass my case to Mr. Robertson.
I think he is a little confident. I don't think he's arrogant, though. And if I had to put a number on it, I'm like 2/3 out, 1/3, 33.3% repeating. I think he can still be the guy.
I'm around that area too, Jake.
Yeah, so you can. We've compared it to a guy like Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield a couple times on the show today. I don't think he has to be to that extent. I don't think it's going to take him 6-7 years to get to where he needs to be. I see a lot of similarities with a guy that we should have faced last week in Jordan Love. If you watch the tape of Jordan Love coming out of Utah State as a junior, there was great talent out there. He had his OC. He had some playmakers there on the outside. He was putting up numbers. He returns for that senior season and lost his receivers. He lost his OC. He was put in a new system with a horrible offensive line and really struggled, which we saw the talent still out there, and he has a huge arm. And that's why he kind of fell down into that first round and allowed Green Bay to take him there. And going back to Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers said earlier this week, he's like, you can't judge a quarterback in this league off their first 20 starts. No. There's going to be guys out there like Jaden Daniels that come onto the scene and erupt immediately. But then when you look at guys like Caleb Williams, who was this generational talent, you look at Peyton Manning, you look at even T-Law, as much as I don't agree with it, these were guys that were labeled to come in week 1 and to be studs, and they just worked. So I give him a little bit more leniency there, and I think he can put it together down the road. I think this offensive line is going to make it harder on him, but if he can improve with those progressions pre-snap and post-snap, because he has to get better at both, I think there is a chance where this guy can be somebody in the league. I don't think he's a Trey Lance out there. Trey Lance coming out of D2, essentially. Dude just didn't have to play against good talent. I mean, he has some of the physical intangibles, physical ability and intangibles there that you can hopefully see the progression there. But that's like Malik Willis moving from year 1 to year 2 to year 3. It's like, you move up a little bit, it's going to look huge because of how bad you were. So I
Is
think
he
we
closer
can
to
put
Trey
this,
Lance or Josh Allen?
I think he's
Come
closer to
on,
Josh
bro.
Allen.
Come
I
on.
think he is.
I'm just asking a question.
Trey Lance, outside of that first preseason game where he threw that big ball, has been horrible. Horrible. There's been no redeeming qualities of his play.
I was just asking a
Man,
question.
Stoney in the comments. They're going to win just enough games to end up with Drew Aller out of Penn
No.
State and restart the
No.
cycle of Titans QB purgatory.
It's the way
Drew
we do
Aller
it.
is very
No.
similar to Will Levis is how I see it right now.
It's the way
And,
we do it, baby.
No.
I think he's going to be a
please,
first-round
God,
pick.
No.
I think he's going to be a first-round pick.
It's the Titan way.
Yeah. So we'll see how that plays out. But I think this is a slept-on quarterback class as of right now. There's
Me too.
6 guys that I'm comfortable with in the first round. I think that Will Levis and the Titans, they're going to be probably good enough to win 5 or 6 games. I don't think we're going to finish as number 32. So I don't even know if Shedeur is going to be on the table at that point in time. And maybe Jalen Milroe. He might be 101 right now after last
please,
week.
God, no. Please, no.
Jalen Milroe is that dude. I think he doesn't really fit what Callahan wants to do, but I think he's a leader, and I think he's probably going to be very good in the NFL too. So
He has been better this year. I'll give him credit for that.
He's been very
He
good
manages
this year.
risk.
We'll see. Oh, we'll see how well he does in the playoff if they even make it.
Who
who
makes it?
Alabama's making it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think that wraps it up. Let's move on to this defense because this is the best performance, I think, across the board. I think they've done all season. And
It's like saving the best food on your plate for last.
yeah,
This
You know what I'm
is
saying?
dessert,
Like,
baby.
You got like 5 things, and you're like, I'm gonna eat this last because this tastes the best.
Mhm.
it's just freaking shout out to Jarvis Brownlee Jr. and Tavondre Sweat stepping up in huge ways. They are just dismantling opposing offenses. Jarvis Brownlee coming in relief of Chidobe, who went to IR, and is coming in and playing well from the get-go, which is what we saw because he's just a L'Jarius Sneed clone. He's a little undersized, wants to get on the line of scrimmage, wants to fuck you up there, and then he's going to play off. And I think what we're worried about was the big plays coming off of that. But they haven't happened yet. And this cornerback group as a whole throughout this season is only allowing like 50 passing yards per game as a whole. It's excluding the safeties. So L'Jarius Sneed, you might look at his PFF grade and it looks awful. And I think he had a better graded one this one. But PFF is only grading on throws to those players. And he's allowed like 3 catches for like 40 some odd yards or something like that. So L'Jarius Sneed has been the L'Jarius Sneed of past. He could have gave up a big play or 2 against Tyreek Hill in the game, but he didn't. He allowed 0 catches to Tyreek and shut him down once again. And that's what he's done his entire career up to this point. And Roger McCreary, I mean, he didn't have a eye-opening performance by any means in this game, but he's always in the right place at the right time. If his arms were 2 inches longer, this guy would be a first-team All-Pro every single season.
Everybody needs extra 2 inches.
I mean, it'll get you where you need to go. But he's doing well. And Quandre Diggs, first real signing that we've seen this season. He had that huge stop on 4th and 1 to the outside. I mean, this defense is back to number 1 in yards per game allowed. I mean,
was Quandre
they are
not
those
the number
guys.
1 safety graded in week 4?
I believe he was. If I remember, he was 90-something. I saw
Yep.
Mike
Yeah.
Herndon retweeted it because
Yeah,
he's all Titans. And we got Red River coming up here in a week and Boomer Sooner. But
Hey man, I'm for the next time Sneed plays Tyreek Hill, I need him to come to the stadium dressed up as a police officer. I have to see it. I just need him to do the Officer Sneed. That's what I need. Because at this point, that's what he's got. He's got Hill in a chokehold, man.
oh yeah.
Hold on, there's one player that we have to give some shine that has been grossly he's been missing. MIA. We finally found it's not James Lynch though. Everybody knows big James Lynch guy right here. Been calling him Joe Lynch for the first week that he was here. James Lynch is awesome. He's really good. No. The guy we have to give some shine. Got to give him a little bit of love. Come on. We found him. He's found. He's safe. No. Rashad Weaver. Arden Key, baby. How about Arden Key in that game? Arden played his ass off in that game. You have to give him credit. Was really close to having that sack where he literally just bulls the tackle and then extendo clip tackles the quarterback. It ended up being a flag because I guess he went a little bit low. I thought it was a normal tackle. So that was close. And he had several pressures, looked really good. Obviously come up with the turnover. He was in there, man. He was flying off the edge, playing really well. And so, I'm not saying give him a crown and be like, oh man, this is the best, but he showed up when you needed him to. Sebastian Joseph Day with a sack and 6 tackles or something crazy. Tavondre with a big game. Harold gets another sack. This defensive line without Jeffrey Simmons was surprisingly good. And yeah, I mean, I just wanted to give a little love. I just remembered seeing Arden several times, like in the mix, had a big TFL. Like there was a lot of moments where he was like, okay, all right, he's showing up, he's arriving. So yeah, I mean, obviously this Dolphins offensive line is not great. They lost some pieces last year. I think Robert Hunt gone. Obviously they have Aaron Brewer, which was not an improvement to their offensive line. We know that.
Not over Connor Williams.
No. So they had some hits, and obviously it's not great, but regardless, to see some movement, to see some production from the defensive line was really, really great.
Sweat really impressed me with not only how many snaps he plays, but his impact in those snaps. I mean, we're talking about a guy that's going to be very, very, very good for this defense.
Did you notice how they used him?
They were using him as a 1 tech. They were using him as a 3 tech.
Yes.
They were moving him all up and down the defense line, and he's proved to be able to do that. I mean, the guy is going to be a very, very good football player for us. And I'm glad to say that I was wrong on how much of a difference he makes in the pass rush with, his ability to affect the passer. And that was my thing with him. If he could do that, we're fine. And he has proven to do that. So good on him for being able to. He looks slim out there, man. He looks like, and it's just the beginning because he's still got to get used to this new frame of his. And they're always going to be tinkering his frame. I mean, it's going to be talk every offseason, right? I'm eager to see what they do with it. He used to be a small basketball player. So he could really muscle up a little bit and really be a hoss,
I loved that they moved him off of the 1 tech and allowed him to kind of have some movement, because what that did was that freed him up on a lot of double teams, and he was able to just win his one-on-one in many cases. So I loved that Denard Wilson was like, okay, we're going to get Sweat moving around. We're not just going to, stick him at the nose and be like, okay, cool. Everyone else rush around him. Because it showed like he's dominant. He's going to win those one-on-ones more times than maybe like a Sebastian Joseph Day or Coburn or somebody like that. And he was back there flushing around. Like, yeah, there's moments where he flushes the quarterback out of the pocket and you're like, oh, he's so close to this sack. He just can't quite get there speed wise. But regardless, making a muck of that interior and really causing. So it's the same thing that Big Jeff does all the time. Like he'll make a muck of the interior. He'll flush a quarterback out. The problem is that there's just so many quarterbacks in this league that can flush out of the pocket and make a big play down the field. We watched Mahomes absolutely tear us apart in that case. So that's why the edges matter so much in getting proper pressure. So, but yeah, I was huge on Tavondre Sweat from the moment we drafted him. Thought really highly of him, and the good news is we're seeing the level of play that we saw at Texas from him right here. It's translating, and not only that, he's playing a absolute chronic shit ton of snaps. He was out there for like 82% of the snaps or something like that. It was a really high usage rate.
It's gone up every single week. He has played some special team snaps, which kind of vary this, but just defensive line snaps. He went from 38 in week 1, 39 in week 2. Jumped to 46 in week 3 and 47 this week. So it's progressively getting higher and higher each and every week, and it should probably continue that. And maybe that plays into a little bit with Jeff being out for this game with the Tommy John injury, not surgery.
Then you lose Coburn too halfway through.
You lose Coburn, but him and Sebastian Joseph Day held it down. And SJD, he's showing out. I mean, that's the second big sack of the season.
Big game.
He's put them together. So I think there is definitely some things to grow on there.
Shout out to Denard and what he's done with this defense schematically, mentally. I mean, he's got this defense where he needs to have them, and it was quick. It didn't take long. I mean, what a hire he is. And he's not going anywhere. That's the good thing is that it's an offensive league, and we'll be fortunate to hold on to him for at least a few more years. It took what's the fellow that got hired in Atlanta, Raheem Morris. Took him a while to get a job. So we've got some time with Denard, man. We got enough time to get a protege in there. And that's what we need to. That's what Callahan needs to be looking at in this offseason to get somebody. If he doesn't already have him, I haven't really looked at the defensive staff, but get a young guy that can learn under Denard, just as Denard learned under Todd Bowles and learned under Greg Williams all those years. We got to get that guy in there and
it's probably Chris Harris.
Start playing. Yeah, we do have Chris Harris.
One I can think of,
but we got to find a way to hold on to him. So if we got to make him the assistant defensive coordinator or whatever, if he ain't already,
they promoted him to pass game coordinator. So yeah.
So I mean, we got to find a way to hold on to him because Denard will be gone in a few years, but we've got to really get that successor in place. So kudos to Callahan and Carthen to make that hire.
I think MB in the chat put it well. Denard will get interviews this cycle. I think.
He will.
Yeah, he will.
I think he's not going anywhere this season.
I disagree with you guys. I think there's a chance that
I think it'll be one more.
You're still.
I think it's one more season.
I hope I'm wrong.
Probably.
It's all dependent on. I mean, but here's the thing: teams are going to be looking at these defensive coaches.
Season, yeah, he's gone. Yeah.
But teams are looking at these defensive coaches that hired in the last cycle in McDonald, in Dan Quinn, in Raheem Morris. And they're doing okay. They're not doing as bad as I feel like their floor. Your defensive coaches, same thing with Vrabel. The floor with the defensive head coaches is higher than the floor with the risk on a young offensive head coach. You know what I'm saying? But the problem is not year 1, year 2 with these defensive head coaches. The problem is year 3, year 4, year 5 with them replacing that offensive coordinator. They're going to get a good offensive coordinator that first year. They're getting the pick of the litter, but it's about replacing that guy. That's what's happened with Mike Tomlin, how he's done so well over the years is he generally knows how to get a guy to come in to fit what he wants to do, and they build the roster to that. But, Dan Quinn's got Kingsbury up there lighting shit up, him and Daniels. So, that's what it's about with defensive head coaches. That's just the nature of the beast. Yeah. You think Denard gets a job before Vrabel?
No. I think Vrabel will get a job next offseason.
I could see them both getting a job, but I think Denard might get a job first. I think what you're looking at is people want the new hotness. Mike Vrabel burnt out. So, I mean, look how long it took Dan Quinn to get a second job. I mean, it took years. And now, he's not DC or anything for the Browns. He's just running pads with them, is what it looks like out there.
No, he seems like him and Jameis are strength and conditioning. That's all I see is them running sprints.
Yeah.
He'll get a job. I wouldn't be surprised if the Browns sputtered if they kicked Stefanski and just plugged in Vrabel at head coach. I'm not saying that will happen. I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, I think Denard, if Denard's defense continues to be first, which by the way, Titans defense still first overall, in just yards and points allowed, essentially. Turnover differential is awful, but other than that, they're still highly ranked.
That's
shout out for the rest of the year.
This defense
shout out getting their first takeaway.
Yeah.
Really was 2 takeaways, if we're being honest. The game of football is bullshit.
Yeah.
Andre Davis got a pick. Come on.
But this defense is that good without forcing turnovers. So just imagine when the turnovers start coming in. Yep. Because it's a game of averages. They're getting around the ball. They're making plays. The turnovers are going to come, and they're going to come like a faucet. It's going to be a couple weeks where we just get 3 takeaways. We'll get a game where we get 4 or something like that.
Man,
we're due. This defense is due.
I'm really excited about Quandre. He's been playing really, really, really well, and I think he'll probably get a second contract with the Titans at this rate, and he deserves one at this point, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, I hope he gets one too. That means we can move on from Hooker, draft a young safety.
No. They need to address the safety position this offseason. I mean, it's just so top heavy at this point. Jamal Adams.
Has Hooker even been bad this year? I don't think he has.
He's been average.
Yeah, if Hooker ain't coming downhill fit in a run and a run fit, he's not good, buddy.
No, he's
been okay.
He almost had a pick.
No, he's not good.
He almost has a pick.
He's almost always
Jake,
Joker.
Don't do this shit, Jake. Don't feed into it.
Jake knows.
No.
I saw
the guy's not good, buddy.
I saw a couple plays from
he's getting 10
Miami
million.
where I was like, okay, you got to cut that angle off better, and that's been my biggest take on him this season is he takes terrible angles. But he's in the right
costs us
place
a
at the right
touchdown.
time for the most part.
He's only allowed 3 catches in coverage, guys. He
And,
almost
I mean,
has
he's
a
been
PFF
fine.
grade of 70%. He's just shy of 70%. Like
Yeah,
he's
I mean-
not bad.
Pay him another
He's
10
fine.
million, Jonathan. Extend him.
10 million is it even 10 or is it 8?
I don't
Look,
even know.
I don't know. Whatever.
But be like Lou
Mhm.
Man 007 in the comments. Hit that like button.
Oh.
My glory holes. Got to grow the community.
Yeah.
Definitely be like Lou Man, guys. But we're gonna go ahead and hop into these picks because obviously it's the bye week, but we're still talking AFC South, and there's only a couple games to break down this today. We got the Buffalo against the Texans, and Buffalo is actually favored slightly on the road right now, but basically even. And the Colts at Jaguars. Jaguars still winless, but they're favored in this one.
Make that make sense.
Yeah, don't really get that. But Trevor Lawrence will always get that uptick. And maybe this is looking at Anthony Richardson might be starting. I think that kind of helps the team a little bit
Is
more.
he starting?
In their favor. I don't know. He didn't practice, I don't think, yesterday is what I read. So we'll see how that plays out. But
Colts
Joe
fans
Flug,
are done with him, by the way.
oh yeah.
My God. They're done with
As
him.
they probably should be. And we were talking about turnover-worthy plays earlier. Levis was at 4.7, I think. Anthony Richardson is at 7.7.
Oh, my
so
Lord.
he's
I just wanna-
significantly worse.
I just want to apologize to our viewers for the dialogue over the offseason of Jonathan and I arguing over the black trash can or the blue trash can. I know it was the offseason, but y'all didn't.
I win
y'all
that
didn't.
one?
No, you didn't win it, buddy.
Oh,
but,
come on.
but y'all didn't deserve to get
They're
that.
both bad.
Yeah.
Before we do these picks,
You want Glad trash bags or you want?
You want Glade? How
Glade,
do you
whatever
guys
the hell.
rank these current AFC South quarterbacks? I got to know. Stroud's number one, whatever. How
Yeah.
do you see 2 through 4? Go ahead, B. Will.
This guy Trevor Lawrence, man, he's getting away with murder, man, but he's still second somehow. So I don't get it. But you got Lawrence second. I don't
You got to do it.
Say it. Just say it, bro.
say what.
Just say it.
Like, who would I take? Who's better? What are we saying here?
Who do you think is better? Who do you
Who
think is better right
has
now?
a better career? Okay, who's better right now?
Let's do it. Right now,
Whoa,
I
those are
would
2 different
say
questions.
Richardson is better right now, and then Levis is last.
Yep.
Okay,
That's what I would say.
I see Will Levis better than Anthony Richardson right now, and he's competing with Trevor Lawrence because he looks awful out there. He looks
Lawrence
so
is-
bad.
Yeah.
Levis could jump Lawrence very soon, I think.
Jake wants Levis to succeed so bad, and you should.
I do too.
I do too.
And what sucks about
he
this
believes.
conversation is they might be 29 through 32nd.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh
or
yeah.
30
Oh,
through
yeah.
32nd. I mean,
Oh yeah.
doesn't mean they're good.
Uh,
They just got to be better than the next guy.
That's what
the
hurts
AFC
me so
South.
much about Levis is that I just need league average, and
That's
I'm
all
not
you
gonna
got.
get that.
I think we'll get there. I think we'll get there. What? He's at the floor. It can't get worse.
Well,
There you go, Titans fans.
Yeah. This is as bad as it's going to be. It's only uphill from here. Well, let's go ahead and start with these picks. Yeah, let's go ahead and start with these picks. I'll go first. We'll start with this Bills at Texans game. Man, the Texans are such a hard team to kind of play off of because they've not been great this season. They haven't been what we expected them to be thus far. But I do think they do enough at home to beat Buffalo this week. So I'm taking the Texans with my first pick. Do you want to go next, Jonathan?
Sure. Yeah, I'll take Buffalo. I'm not really sure about the Texans either. I can't really put a finger on who they are as a team. And it wasn't just the disastrous play against Minnesota. It was also like the crippling play that they had against Jacksonville, which granted Jacksonville, divisional game, like there's a divisional buff for the worst team. So both teams are always going to play each other a little tighter, but yeah, I don't know. I like Buffalo right now. I think they're really good. They had a down week, obviously kind of got slaughtered by the Ravens, but I think they're better than that. So I'll take Buffalo in a super close game.
What about you, B. Will?
I'm gonna take Houston. You know, the Astros just got bowed out of the playoffs, so the fans are actually going to be at NRG now. So, I'm gonna take Houston just because of the Stingley effect and what Stingley's going to do to that receiver core of Buffalo. Stingley's been out of his freaking mind this year.
Keely Ringo too. Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't take that into consideration. I guess I'm just thinking that the Houston's defense just hasn't been great. They haven't been as good as we've hyped them up to be, and Buffalo's going to find ways to score. So, but you're right. That defensive matchup of the corners versus the skilled players on Buffalo, I think, are probably going to struggle. Yeah. Ooh, that's a tough one. I'll stick with my pick at Buffalo. But I could see Houston pulling it out.
That's the only reason why I think Houston go over Buffalo.
Yeah. So then that leads us to Colts at Jacksonville. Jacksonville is the 3-point favorite in this one. Do you want to go ahead and kick us off with this one, B. Will?
Yeah, so here's the thing. If Flacco plays, I take the Colts. If Flacco doesn't play, I'll take Jacksonville.
Ooh.
You know, here's the thing. So I don't does anybody know? Does anybody in the comments know what's up with Richardson? I haven't kept up with it. But
it feels like he's gonna play.
Yeah. I feel like he's gonna play, but I don't think we'll get it for sure till later in the week.
Okay.
Right. Today's the first, or yesterday was the first day of the injury report. So
we'll just put an asterisk on that one, and then we'll go with whichever one happens. If you get AR out there, you get.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. Just give me Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville will win. Yeah, don't do that. That's cheating.
It's not though, because I feel like that's kind of where I land also.
Yeah.
If it's Richardson, I think I'm going to take Jacksonville, but if it's Flacco, I'm taking the Colts.
Right. There's no fun in that though.
Yeah. So give me the Colts. I'll take the Colts.
Yeah, you got to change some up, Jonathan.
Yeah, mix it up. Either dig the hole deeper or close the gap.
I think Jacksonville is just really bad. So I'm taking the Colts regardless of whoever starts. If it's AR, I think they beat them. If it's Joe Flacco, I think they beat them by more. And I think it's as simple as that.
Jacksonville played Houston really well.
They did.
They usually AFC South matchup. I think it's always going to be closer than it should. Yeah. It's as rivalry as it could be.
You got to think how pissed Khan's going to be in the stadium. Peterson's going to be shaking with that the play calls in his hand.
I think Doug Peterson gets fired. I think Doug Peterson gets fired after this game.
If they lose, I could see it for sure. Depending on how bad the loss is. Like,
Bro had the balls to go out there and say, "Well, we can't play for him." Like, dog.
That was one of those things. He came out and said that. I was like, bro, you've already lost this locker room. And you're just digging yourself deeper and deeper.
And then he fired his whole staff last year too, like in off season. So he deserves every little bit of this that's coming to him.
Jacksonville beats themselves just like the Titans beat themselves a lot. But we do it in different ways. So I think there's lots of newness here and there's lots of oldness there. So they're about to kick that staff real quick.
So I've got Jacksonville and Houston, right, Jake?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Just making sure.
And then me and Jonathan, or no, Jonathan has the Bills. I have the Texans. And then me and Jonathan are in agreement on the Colts. So should be an interesting week. Titans fans, you guys get to relax for at least a weekend, watch some red zone, watch some college football, not have to have your heart rate up, take years off your own life watching this team. And then we'll come back next week and we'll see. We'll talk about this Indy team because that's who will be
Colts in Jacksonville. Like someone's going to lose, right?
Yep.
So win.
Who doesn't love a good hate watch? Because I know I do. So we'll check you guys out next week. We love you guys in the comments. I mean, there's 100 of you guys out there right now. We appreciate you as we continue to grow this channel. Do us a favor. If you're still watching this, you like the channel, or at least you like hating on us, something. So do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell. It costs you absolutely nothing. Enters you a chance to win a free signed jersey. So definitely do that for Tajay Spears. And we will check you guys next Thursday as we preview this game. And love you guys. Mean it. Peace.